Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our biology lesson for grade 7. Mr. Abdullah Amin is talking. And today, inshallah, we're going to explain the second part of Unit 2, Lesson 2, which is talking about the protists and fungi. In this part, inshallah, we are going to find out what are the kinds of the protists. The kinds of the protists. Okay. Kinds of the protists, guys, the scientists classify the protists according to the way they get energy. So they classified them into three main groups: animal-like protist, fungus-like protist, and plant-like protist. So this classification according to the way they can get energy. So animal-like protist, they can get energy like the animal. Fungus-like protist, they can get energy like the fungi and so on. Okay, so animal-like protist. Animal-like protist, guys, they cannot make their own food, of course. Okay, so they don't have any structure for making food, and then get the energy, or they get the nutrients by ingesting other organisms like bacteria, yeast, and other protists. So by ingesting or engulfing or eating other small organisms like the bacteria, they can eat bacteria, they can eat yeast. They also can eat or can engulf another protist. So the amoeba can engulf paramecium and so on. Most of them can move to search for food. They have, guys, like structure that help them for movement. Okay, so maybe they have cilia, they have pseudopod, so they can help them in searching for, they can help them in movement for searching for food, and also that can help them in engulfing itself or in ingesting the food. So this is structure for movement that can help them to get food also. And we have like two examples about the amoeba and the paramecium. Okay, so this is the amoeba, like it's go around the paramecium, and once the paramecium get inside, so the amoeba can digest it easily. Okay, so there is no way to go out. Here, guys, the fungus like a protist, which is a protist like fungi, which means also they cannot move. Okay, so they cannot move on their own, and the way they can get energy like fungi, also they can absorb nutrients from surrounding. Okay, so they can take it from living things or dead organism that found in the place. Fungus like a protist, guys, they can produce a spore for reproduction, and as we know that the spore is a reproductive cell that can survive in harsh conditions. These spores, when it land or when it find a place, a good place or a good source of nutrients, so they can live and grow and develop into a new adult. Okay, so they can reproduce by spores and release it to the environment when they find a good place to live, so they can grow and develop into a new adult. This is about fungus-like protist. And the last part, which is the plant-like protist, we know that, guys, the plant can make its own food, and they have a structure for that, which is chloroplast. Here, fungus-like protist, guys, they are producers, which means they can make their own food. Okay, they have a structure like the chlorophyll, like the chloroplast, which help them to absorb energy from sunlight and convert it into food. Some of them are unicellular and some of them are multicellular. So the plant like a protist, some of them are unicellular and some of them are multicellular. A unicellular plant like a protist, which is a main part of phytoplankton. Phytoplankton. What are phytoplankton, guys? Phytoplankton are tiny floating organisms that provide food for larger organisms. So they are found in watery places. So they are like a food for other organisms. And also they can produce much of the oxygen all over the world. Okay, much of the oxygen in the world. So this is about single-celled plant like a protist. But in multicellular plant like a protist, the cold algae. Okay, guys, this algae, almost all of them have a green pigment, which is chlorophyll, in their cells that help them to make their own food by using the energy from sunlight. And the scientists classify this algae by their colors. So there are three groups. They are red algae, brown algae, and green algae. And this is some characteristics of the plant like a protist. Okay, let's see this question. Summarize for each kind of the protist on the chart below. List three characteristics of animal like a protist, fungus like a protist, and plant like a protist. Okay, guys. So animal like a protist, they can move or they cannot move. Yes, they can move. Yes, they cannot make their own food. Okay, so they can get energy by eating or ingesting other organisms like bacteria, yeast, and other protists. Fungus like a protist, of course, they cannot move by their own, and also they cannot make their own food like animal like a protist. And instead, they can get to the energy by absorbing nutrients from the environment. And one last thing to mention, they can reproduce by spores. Okay. The last one, which is the only kind of a protist, which is a plant like a protist that can make its own food, and they have like algae, and it's a part of phytoplankton in the unicellular and multicellular. So this is a plant like a protist. They can make their own food. They cannot move like the plant. So the plant like a protist cannot move, and they can group by color, red, brown, or green, and most of them are multicellular. By this way, guys, we finished the second part of the protist, which is talking about the kinds of the protist. And I hope you enjoyed this easy lesson, and inshallah, see you next time.